Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, we're back in our study in the book of Numbers, and today we are doing Numbers chapter 16. Now, Numbers chapter 16 is a very popular chapter. It brings about a often preached sermons with regards to the sons of Korah and or the company of Korah, where they gathered together to go against Moses and in so doing against God. And so we wanted to actually take a look at some of the highlights and peel back the Hebrew a little bit just to have a better understanding of this chapter. Now, when the first verse comes about, as you read, now Korah, the Korach, actually, in the proper pronunciation is Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahath, the son of Levi, and then this is actually one person. Next would be Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, that's another person. Two, actually. So this is 1, 2, 3. Next one is On, the son of Pelet, the sons of Ruvain. Basically, you find that there are 4 of them. The last few, the sons of Eliav and the sons of Pelet, both of them are sons of Ruvain. Now let's quickly take a quick look at some of these names here, and I hope that you remember these names. Let me just do a little talk on how these people relate to Moses and Aaron, and then thereby you should be able to figure out yourself a little clearer. We all begin with Jacob. And with Jacob, you know he has 12 sons. The first is Reuben. Next is Simeon. The one that we are interested in is Levi. Of course, the one most popular is Judah. Now, our interest for today in number 16 is Reuben and Levi. And so if you actually go through the Bible, you find the way that they have their children in this way. Hanok, and then you have Palu. With Levi, he has 4 children. First one would be Gershon. Then we have Kohath, Merari, and one that is seldom talked about is Yechavet, actually. And this is a daughter born in Egypt. With this, our interest in Numbers chapter 16 is following here is Eliav. Now, with Kohath, we are interested in a few people. We have a few here. He's got 4 children. This is Hembron, and then Izhar, Uzziel, and the final one is Amran and Amram. Now, what is interesting is the next generation. Now, the next generation is right here. We have Nemuel, and then we have Datan. And of course, his brother Aviram. with Izhar is what we are interested in. Amongst all the children, the one child that we are interested in is Korah. These are all the same generation. Now, Amram has 3 children. We have Miriam, Aaron, and Moses. Interestingly, Amram is married to Yocheved, right? And so this is how we will want to see the story begin. These are the people. Now, we don't have On. It is somewhere in the line of Reuben, but we don't have a way of tracing that. And so we'll leave him out for now. And in today's chapter, we're talking about Dathan, Aviram, Korah, and particularly Aaron and Moses, because the contention is why Aaron, why Moses, and why not any one of them who are there, particularly Korah from the tribe of Levi, and since they're all cousins. And then through Dathan and Aviram, they too think that they are from the first son tribe. Now, this is a very important concept that all of us need to pay attention to, because sometimes we tend to glean and gloss over one verse where there are names. And I hope that this will give us a better picture that they are all from the same generation, all born in Egypt, all came out of Egypt, and all are contending with each other in Numbers chapter 16. So let's go back to Numbers chapter 16. So we talked about Korah, Dathan, Aviram, On, and they rose up before Moses. The idea of rose up is to show some form of a rebellion. Okay. In today's terms, you might call it a mutiny, where they gang up, right? They rose up means they got together and stood up against Moses. And with some of the children of Israel, 250 of them, and it's described here, 250 leaders of the congregation. This one here means this. They're called representatives of the congregation, men of renown. These are what we call appointed people. This is the word. This comes from the word Moab, like appointed times, the appointments of God, and these have the appointments of their various congregations. They are men of name. They are well known, and there are 250 of them, and they are called leaders, Nasi. You can call them leaders, you can call them prince. And they will tell their people what to do. And so they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. And so thereby we have completed our number of people for this chapter, Moses and Aaron. And they came up to Moses and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves." Now, the key word here is too much. You have assumed a lot of responsibility. So it is with regards to responsibility. But I think they were contending more of authority. Why? Is because the authority of Moses is above everyone else, because God speaks to Moses. Now, the contention here as an argument is that all of them, all the congregation is special. All of us is special. Every one of them. and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord? The whole idea is, why do you lift up? The word lift up is nasa. Leaders is called nasi. And so it is the same idea, exalt, right? Exalt yourselves. So the word exalt and the word leaders come across as one as a noun and one as a verb. So exalt is a verb, leader is a noun. And so it says, why are you above everyone else in the congregation of God? Now, moving on, verse 4, you find that something strange is happening. In verse 4, if you take a look at verse 4 right here, it says this: when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. Now, this one I need to explain a little bit. He didn't fall down and hit his face on the ground and then got all blooded. This is actually a very visual imagery. When you look at Moses' face, all right, how does a face fall? Right, this is literally fall down. And I think in our modern day, we can actually see it this way. When it is up, right, this is up. So down would be like this. Right? Down would be like this. So when it says Moses fell on his face, is that we can actually see, you can literally see Moses' face falling down. It's a very oriental expression, by the way. And so when you look at a child, when the father is angry, the father's face is not up. The father's face is down. And so Moses heard it and he was very angry, very disappointed. And that is the expression. Then he spoke to Korah and all his company, all 250 of them. Okay, if this is what you want to contend, then let God speak. Tomorrow morning, God, Jehovah, will show. Now, this idea of verse 4 that he will show who is holy, how do we say this? Says tomorrow in the morning will show. And this word will show means cause to know. That's the word. Which tells us that God himself is the one that will cause everyone to see his decision. Who is his? Who is his means who belongs to him, and who is his means who belongs to him, and who is holy, who is set apart for his work. And then will cause him to come near to him, meaning will cause the one whom God has chosen, to come near to him, to do his task. So that one whom he chooses will cause to come near to him. And so now the challenge to them is this: do this. Take census. Now, census, how do we describe census? There are a couple of ideas of what census are. It could be in one stick and it hangs down and there's a pan. That's like a censer. The whole idea here is that there is a handle, and in it you would put the incense, right? The incense is in here. And so you will hold them. So take census. Korah and all your company. So that would be Dathan, Aviram, and On, and all of them. Put fire in them, put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. Only do that tomorrow. Put fire tomorrow. And that it shall be that the man whom God chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. Why did he say sons of Levi? Because the single one out would be Korah. Now, you take too much. And this is another play of the word. They complain to Moses that he took on too much authority. Too much authority about Moses. In this case, Moses turned around and says, you also took up too much upon yourself. Too much assumption. All right? Too much assumption. Assumption. You're taking a lot of risks upon yourselves because you do not know what you are doing. Let's go through verse 8, the next passage. Then Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi. Notice this, Korah and those behind him are from Levi. Why? Is because he really was angry. If you look at this whole entire passage, he was angry that Moses appointed Aaron, his brother, to be the high priest and not Korah. Maybe Korah wanted to be that high priest and he was not given a chance. And so why should Moses give the appointment to his brother and not to Korah? And so he says, is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord and to stand before the congregation to serve them? So what did God do is this. The Levi are the set apart ones. From all the tribes of Israel, God has set them apart. Now in verse 9, it says God has separated, cause you, this word is cause, to make a distinction. Right? Made you very different from everyone else from the congregation so that you can do the work. So doing the work is a special honor, a special responsibility. And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you. And are you also seeking the priesthood? Remember, the priesthood is Aaron and sons. You want to be priests as well. Therefore, you and all your company are gathered together. And in this case, in verse 11, it says, you are gathered together. The word here is to cause to gather against God. Now, this is a very serious charge. It means that they have fixed and determined together. The word moed is used as well, right? The word moed is used. That they have appointed themselves, that they will be complaining and bringing a charge against Moses. And then Moses said, what is Aaron that you complain against him? After speaking to Korah, and then Moses sent and called Dathan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav. But they said, we will not come up. Nope, we're not going to talk to you. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Now, verse 13, their complaint is not about the priesthood. Their complaint is that, why is Moses ruling? Act like a ruler, right? Act like a ruler over us. Why are you governing us? And that's their complaint. We're supposed to be going into a land flowing with milk and honey, and now we're all going to die in the wilderness. So they are blaming Moses for what they did. It's a very interesting event that's happening here. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing milk and honey. You didn't give us inheritance of fields and vineyard. Are you going to put out the eyes of this man? Are you going to blind them too? Right? Put out the eyes is to blind them, that they can't see the reality of it all. Then that's the complaint. We will not come out. We're not going to look at you. We're not going to talk to you. And this is rebellion or mutiny. Now, you need to understand, when Korah said that they too are holy, in Exodus chapter 19, everyone heard the Lord. But Korah forgot that the entire congregation told Moses, oh no, we cannot stand this. Why don't you go and talk to God and then tell us what we need to do? The entire episode was, well, I guess casually forgotten by Korah, because he was born in Egypt and he had seen this, and yet he conveniently forgot what actually transpired, and he wanted to be the kahuna. He wanted to be the high priest. Now, after a few of these episodes, you need to understand. Verse 15, Moses was very hot. All right? This is the word, very hot. You see, when God got angry with Israel in Exodus chapter 34 of the golden calf, Moses prayed to God, no. Let them be and forgive them. And Moses pleaded on their behalf. Then, before they were supposed to get into the promised land, they didn't. And Moses prayed once again. You see, there were a couple of times that Moses really interceded for the Israelites. But in this case, he would be like what we would say in our colloquial language, tak boleh tahan. He just couldn't stand them anymore and said to God, look at verse 15. It says, do not respect their offering. What do you mean by do not respect their offering? Do not turn or do not look at, right? Do not look at. Do not favor. Do not be happy with what they present to you. I have not taken one donkey from them, meaning he has not taken any male ass. I have not hurt one of them. And Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before the Lord, you and they, as well as Aaron. And so this is actually a showdown between Korah and Aaron. Right? And Aaron. Let each take his censer, put incense, and you bring your censer before the Lord. All 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer. Right now, that is what they're supposed to bring, and that's where the proof is going to be. Now, before we move on, let me just explain a little bit about the censer. The word censer here is makhta. And you find that this word makhta or makhita literally comes from bringing ruin, right? Bringing ruin. That's the whole picture. And the reason why the censer is used is because of the word. That using the censer one would be chosen and the other will see ruin. And so every man took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense, stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting or the Mishkan with Moses and Aaron. Korah gathered all his congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of the meeting, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. What do you mean, the glory of the Lord? So if you remember, we have the Mishkan, and then we have the door of the Mishkan, and then we have the smoke, the cloud that comes down from heaven. And that would be the glory of the Lord. Verse 20. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. Notice God is not speaking to Korah, only to Moses and Aaron. He says, verse 21, it says, cause yourself to be away, separate. And this is the same word as make distinct. So this is the word to make distinct. It is to stand apart. So do not have any association from this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. The word consume in this case literally means to bring to an end. Meaning this whole episode will come to an end. It will bring them to an end as well. So the way that it goes to an end is not because the event ended, it's because God is going to bring all of them to an end. Then they fell on their faces and said, now who is them? Moses and Aaron fell on their faces. So they also turned disappointed. Oh God, that's what he says. Oh God, the God of the spirits of all flesh. This is calling upon God, El, the God of the wind or the spirits of all flesh that God made. Shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation? Are you going to destroy everyone because of this one man? And now you understand, the whole thing is hung on Korah. That's why Numbers chapter 16 is with regards to Korah and his company, right? With Korah and his company. So the Lord spoke to Moses saying, you speak to the congregation, get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Aviram. So you tell everyone that you get away. Now the word get away literally means withdraw, right? Withdraw. Don't stand near the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Aviram. And so Moses spoke to them. So Moses arose and went to Dathan and Aviram, and the elders of Israel followed him, and he spoke to the congregation, saying, Depart now. Depart now means walk away from these tents of these wicked men. Now you notice the word wicked is used. In verse 26, these are the guilty men. Rasha is the word. Walk away from the right path. That's the word. not wicked as they went out killing people, but wicked in the English, whereas in the Hebrew is rasha, means they have walked away from what God is telling them. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. That if you are going to be with them, then you will be ended. And the word consumed literally means not eaten, but be swept away. Right? Swept away in all their sins. You're going to join them, right? You're going to join them. So they got away. And in verse 27, they got away, they withdrew, they caused themselves to go away, right? They withdrew. From around the tents of Korah and Dathan and Aviram. And then Dathan, Aviram came out and stood at the door of the tents with their wives, their sons, and their little children. The picture here is now there is a confrontation. The people withdraw. The families of Korah, Dathan, and Aviram came out. Verse 28. And Moses said, by this, in this event, you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works. For I have not done them on my own will. Now, the word own will means I did not do it from my heart. Now, understand, heart is mine and mine is a will or my own choices. My own choice. I didn't decide on this on my own. So Moses is saying, I'm doing all these things because it is God who has sent me. I am not doing it on my own. And this word here, from my own heart, and every time you see the word heart, it's about will and choice. And so if these men die naturally like all men, meaning they will die when grow old and die, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, meaning they went to war and they were killed, then the Lord has not sent me. Meaning if nothing really happens to these people, then it is proof enough to show you that God did not send me. Now, this word is very important. The word send here is shalak. This word in the Hebrew is one who is sent to represent the one in authority. And the authority of the one who sent is, well, I guess you can say delegated to the one sent. And so God sent Moses. And so Moses is shalach by God. And so Moses inherits or is empowered with the authority that God has given him to speak on his behalf. So you notice in the Israelite culture, no one dared to say, I speak on behalf of God, unless a person is truly speaking on behalf of God. Nobody will dare say, God told me this, unless God really told him that. And so Korah didn't say, but Korah is contending, I can be a kahuna too. No, I can be a priest. And Moses said, if nothing happens to you all, if everybody lives life as it is, then God has not sent me. That the authority I have is my self-invention. Now, here lies an important statement in Hebrew, which is difficult to translate in English. But if the Lord creates a new thing and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord. So let's break this down here. If God will fill or create. And then it says a new thing in the English. The word something that God makes. This is important. This word is about the same word bara, something that God made, and God is going to do something here. This is now let me just point out to you, this is an A. If the Lord creates a new thing, is an A. The earth opens its mouth and swallows them up, is a B. And they go down alive into the pit, is C. This is A, B, C, and the three statements actually says the same thing with an emphasis. That's all, right? There's an A, B, and C. So let's break this down. If the Lord will fill something that he has made, this is something new that God is going to make, and in this case, it will be a hole, right? And God is going to fill that hole, not create a hole. He's just creating a hole, and he's going to fill that hole. That is something new. The hole isn't there. B, the earth, no, not the earth here, right? Let's make it clear, is this, that the Adamah, the ground, will open up its mouth and then will swallow, right? Will swallow them up with all that belongs to them. That's B. So you notice the new thing that God is making is opening up the ground and then filling it in with something. And that word bara is to fill. So if the Lord will fill this new thing that he made, that means the Adamah is going to open up the mouth like a hole and swallow them up. So you can imagine the imagery. And now C, they would be Korah, Aviram, Dathan, the whole family will go down alive into the pit. What does it mean? It means this: they will go down, they will descend alive into the pit. Now it's called the pit, but I want you to know that this word is something that we know. It is Sheol. It is not just the pit. Understand that this is not a hole in the ground like 6 feet deep. This is actually the earth opening up, or the ground opening up, and is going all the way down beyond what man can dig. And that place is what the Hebrews imagine that Sheol will be. When anyone dies, they will go to Sheol. And so they are going alive into Sheol. Although it's translated as pit, it doesn't really mean the pit. I prefer to retain the word Sheol because it is not a little hole, not even the well that kept Joseph. It is a very deep, gaping mouth that the land opens up. So A, B, and C, God is filling the earth. That's what it means. And then you will understand. And the word understand is you will know. You have seen, right? You have seen and perceived. So you will know that these men have rejected. The word rejected is spurn, right? To blaspheme. I think blaspheme is a good word that we all are familiar with. Blaspheme. They have blasphemed the Lord. As you know, in the Bible, anyone who blasphemes God, God will destroy. And that's basically what happened. And so we have here the last portion for this afternoon, verse 31. And this was what happened as he, Moses, when he finished speaking, when he completed saying all these words, all these matters about Korah and what God is going to do, that the ground split apart under them. That would be Korah, Aviram, and Dathan, and the tents that is around them. So understand this. The ground, in this case, the Adamah, the word split apart is cause itself to, how should we say, break apart under them. So just think of it this way. It is the ground cracking up, gaping hole, and only under them. And the consequence was this, that as the land, and notice the earth, the ground, they're all talking about the same thing, opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their household, with all the men of Korah, with all their goods. You can now say that this part here, this is A, the earth opened up, and this is B. So two verses actually both saying the same thing. And it repeats exactly what Moses had said in verses 28 to verses 30. And so now in verse 33, it says this. So they, and also those with them, went down. Again, went down is descend. They didn't walk down, right? They dropped down. So in this case, they dropped down. While they're still alive, they haven't died in the natural way. Because you see, Moses said this, if they die naturally like all men, then you find that all men will die anyways, right? The common fate of all men, they all die. If that is what is going to happen, then God has not shalak me. And so we are seeing they went down alive. They did not die. Now, of course, eventually they died. We can imagine. They dropped into the pit. Now, understand this. This word is Sheol. They dropped down into Sheol. Please retain the word Sheol. Don't look at it as a little hole in the ground. Then we will be thrown off. Right? We'll be thrown off. And then the earth. The earth is, again, this is the land, right? The land closed over them. The word closed over them is conceal. Is the word conceal them. So when the earth come back together and it comes back and the hole is no longer there, the word here is avad, and they perish. They avad, they are lost. And usually we see this word means that they are gone from the assembly. They are no longer around. They are lost. Now, did they die? Obviously, I think they did, right? Literally, they did. But the picture here is not to show that they died, but they show that they are gone. They are lost when the ground closed up on them. Verse 34 is the last verse we're going to cover today, because verse 35 in the Hebrew Bible starts chapter 17, and we'll carry on next week. So verse 34, it says, then all Israel, who is all Israel? All Israel is all 12 tribes, right? All 12 tribes who are around them fled. Now, the word fled was trying to run away, take flight, right? Take flight, run away. At their cry. What does that mean? It means when they were dropping into the ground, they were all calling out desperately. You know, their cry. Their cry means the sounds that they made, right? The sounds they made. And so they ran, and these people, all Israel, ran away, and they were crying, the sounds they made. And so when they were running, they called out, let's run away, lest the earth swallow us up also. And so they didn't quite understand, right, what this actually meant. So the word swallow here, the land, swallow us, engulf us, right? Engulf, just like engulfing them, us also. So this one tells us they were terrified. They were terrified. Now we come to this point, and just let me spend a few moments to recap. What actually happened? There was a rebellion. The cousins came together as Levites. He thought that he too should be priests, not Aaron. But little did he realize that it was God who made the appointment. God's tabernacle, God's rules. Who he wants to serve him, he made the choice. God's rules. He returned the firstborn to Israel and set apart the Levites. God's rules. Korah was part of the Levite, but he wasn't happy enough. He wanted more. And so was Dathan and Abiram, rejecting the leadership of Moses. And that, who made Moses the ruler over them? God. And so, in short, chapter 16, verses 1 to 34, basically tells us that when one contends against what God has appointed, you are contending against God, and God considers them blasphemy, a contempt against God. Meaning you really don't care what God has said. You really don't care what God has decided. And if that's the case, then God doesn't really care what you think. And that's why the ground opened up. Instead of killing the entire congregation of Israel, Moses and Aaron appealed to God that you can't destroy everyone because of that one man, Korah. And so God says, fine. Tell them to stand aside. And God was going to show something. Now notice, everything that's happened up to verse 34 is visual. There is nothing secret. When God did something at Mount Sinai, the entire company of Israel saw and was terrified with the presence of God. Same here. When they saw what God did, they were all terrified. And it proved to them that Moses was shalach by God, right here. Shalach by God, because they did not die naturally like all men. So basically, what Moses said, and it happened. So Moses is a prophet that they are to fear, because what he says come to pass. And that refers them or points them to the fact that Moses is a prophet who is speaking on behalf of God. If what Moses say doesn't happen, they don't really care about Moses. So in this case, God showed visually, clearly, how he dealt with such rebellion. And you notice there is no chance for Korah, Datan, Aviram to say, oh, I'm sorry. And they, including all that belonged to them and their family and their children, were all part and parcel of the judgment of God. And the entire lineage is destroyed. That's what we have seen. And with this, we've come to the end of today's session. Yes, there's one more verse. Verse 35. Sorry, let me just finish with verse 35. What exactly did God do? Where the first part is that the men, that is Korah, Datan, and Aviram and his family, all were swallowed into the ground. Then a fire came out from the Lord. Now, this is a very important statement. This is a fire, literally, right? There is no allegory here. Literally a fire. And so this is where you see God is a consuming fire. And it says it came out from the Lord. Means that somewhere up there from the clouds, as you can see, that is the Mishkan, and then we have the cloud that God, the glory of God that came out, and from there came fire. Now, what is this fire that we are talking about? This literally is flames that shoots out from the clouds, right? And it consumed. This word consume literally means eat. And so when fire burns the sacrifice, it represents God eating the sacrifice. When the fire came out from God, he ate 250 men who were offering incense, which means that God had rejected the incense. God had rejected the incense. And so God was not happy with their incense. 250 men all died. And with this, you should remember the phrase that God is a consuming fire. Because the judgment of God comes out with flames. Now, God doesn't do that all the time. Now, he did another time at the time of Elijah when he was challenging the 450 false prophets, the Hebrew prophets of Baal of the northern kingdom. And so God's consuming fire came down to show them that he accepted the sacrifice of Elijah. Now, in this case, God did not accept the offering incense, and so rejected the incense and consumed them all. All the acts that we see in Korah, Datan, Aviram, and On, and the 250 people were instantly destroyed because of rebellion. There was no chance for them to repent. In God's mind, he was so angry that all of them has to be avad, lost. And to demonstrate to them clearly, and we'll see that next week, that this is a sign to show them God is a true and living God, and God is a consuming fire. And taking our colloquial expression, do not mine with God. And that would be the case. I hope this gives us a picture of the terrifying judgment of God. Now, it is very easy for us to gloss over this, like, oh, this is in the past. These are things and events that is etched in the minds of the Israelites. So I want us to really etch it into our minds so that when we read on from Numbers 16, that this is very real and vivid forever in our minds. I'm not sure how to do it, but I just want to emphasize to you that carrying on from chapter 16, this episode is terrifying. It's a nightmare, and it's there before their eyes, and they barely escape by the teeth of their themselves, and they wish they didn't see all this, but they cannot unsee this, the terror of God. And in so doing, cast upon their minds the terror of God's judgment. I just hope that this stays in our mind. And with this, we come to the end of today's session, ending in verse 35. We shall continue from verse 36 next week.